Hello everyone, welcome to my channel The Future Retro. This is the second video on the channel, and in today's episode I wanted to tell you more about the Retro Games Suitcase project. Let's start.
You saw a demo of it in episode 1. What it is? The Retro Games Suitcase is a portable installation with a Raspberry Pi 4 that is capable of running retro games, starting from the old Atari and ending on some PlayStation 1 game. If needed, this can be also used as a fully functional PC running Raspbian. But why did I build it, and what is the rationale behind the project? Let me explain. So it all started in the 90s when I got a Pegasus. It was a Polish clone of Nintendo Famicom. Yeah, we all know how this ends. 30 years later, I am still hooked on my childhood favorite games. Well, to travel back in time and to go back to my childhood times, I needed a system that would meet my requirements, that some of those might not be basically straightforward. Yeah, those are the requirements I've put in front of the system. So let's start with the most obvious one, that the system needs to be capable of running retro games with acceptable user experience. And what I mean by that is, well, it should be able to run PlayStation 1 level intensive games like Tekken 3. It should be also able to run older games like River Ride or Donkey Kong. There should not be any glitches in the frame rate or any controller problems. So to build such a system, I went online and googled for retro systems like the one that I've just described you. Of course, I found tons of information about retro gaming, different builds including arcade cabinets. It was crazy. I also found some in-browser solutions where you can play the games in the browser, but for me those were cumbersome to play. For example, it was easy to escape from the full screen mode, and there was a huge control delay. It was a big problem. Then I found a lot of information about Raspberry Pi powered systems. Well, for this there was a huge community supporting development of operating systems and emulators for Raspberry Pi, so I decided to give it a try. I decided to use Atari OS. User experience was much better than playing in the browser. Controllers were easy to connect. Also, the overall experience was most close to old Pegasus console experience. Yeah, the Pegasus, the Polish Famicom clone, where you just insert cartridge and the game immediately started. But then another problem popped up. It was a mess on my desk with a lot of wires and Raspberry Pi without a case. That was basically easy to damage. Also, connecting the devices to my monitor was problematic. So putting that cable spaghetti on another desk with a separate monitor was not an option as well. Because of my kids, they would basically dismantle that in seconds, and it would take way too much space in my apartment. So another requirement that popped out was basically that it needs to be child resistant and compact solution. Immediately another requirement pops up, which is that it's important that that's a portable system, so I can take it with me. Why do I need it? So when I meet with my friends, we are always discussing like playing retro games like Micro Machines or Mortal Kombat and making some tournaments. But unfortunately this was never happening, as this was way too complicated to carry cable spaghetti with you. And last but not least is the price factor. Well, I like it cheap, and so my design had to follow. So on this slide, what I'm presenting you is the version 1. Let me walk you through the components. What you can see right here is the aluminium suitcase. It had to be like a child-proof, child-resistant, so that's why this is aluminium case. It's strong and lightweight. Here I'm showing you dimensions, and I've bought this case like for 20 euros in one of the supermarkets. Then I've used Raspberry Pi 4 for gigs. I had this like laying in my closet for the last 2 or 3 years. For the screen I've used 15.4 inches old LCD screen from my Toshiba satellite laptop I've bought I think in 2005. Dismantling this was a lot of fun. I was doing it with my son. To use it as a display I had to buy the HDMI VGA LVD driver for this LCD. You don't see it on the picture because it's hidden behind the screen. So you can see here I'm using some plastic frames. Those have around 2 centimeters, so there is a 2 centimeter space behind the screen, so I could easily fit that LCD driver. I've bought it also for around 20 euros on Amazon. To power it up I need 12 volts, so I had to use a power supply that is 12 volts and is capable of having enough power to power the Raspberry Pi and this driver. I also bought like a 2 cheapest USB controllers for around 4 euros each. I think it's totally enough for playing retro games where maybe it's even better quality than the consoles from the 90s. Build is powered with the 12 volts, so I need a step down power supply that would basically cover 12 volts to the 5 volts, because this is the voltage that Raspberry Pi needs. So you can see this device here. It's a small device with the input of 12 volts and the output is 5 volts. Make sure that it's capable of running the current of around 3 amps, because I think this is the peak Raspberry Pi needs. Then you can see also small electrical box you can find for 1 euro in most of the supermarkets. It's just for hiding the different wires and connecting inside the power wires here, and also the HDMI cable from the driver behind the screen. I also mounted the 5.5 centimeters universal plug. You can see it here. Like for the games, I'm using some of the Retro Games images you can find on the internet. There's a plenty of it. This one is 128 gigs. And here you can see the USB powered mini jack speaker. So this is the current version of the build, and I'm extremely satisfied with the outcome. But on the next slides, let me show you like kind of the build steps and how I was testing the design. So on this slide you can see dismantled LCD screen from my old Toshiba and this LCD driver here, power with 12 volts, and you just connect the cables from the LCD, power it up, and you've got HDMI here and also some controls here. Yeah, here you see my desk with the Raspberry Pi, but what you can see is this wire spaghetti I've mentioned you. So each time I wanted to play I had to plug it into this screen, and you can see there's a lot of wires on the desk. Here you can see I'm trying to measure the current that's used by the Raspberry Pi through this step down voltage controller with different games. So you can see it's just taking 1 amp here, and with the Tekken it was taking 1.12 amps. And here you can see I'm trying kind of to organize the layout of the suitcase. I'm trying to put different components in different order. And here you can see like at the version 0, for example, you can see that the power supply cable is directly connected to this electrical box. On the previous side I was presenting you the solution where it has this 5.5 centimeters plug. In the case it's so much cleaner and well organized. I'm so satisfied with the results. And this is how the solution looks like when it's closed. The suitcase has latches. I can use also keys to lock the suitcase so my kids won't mess with it. It's small, it's portable. Here you can see it in action that actually we are having some small Micro Machines tournament.
That's it for today, guys. In the next episode I will show you some of the glitches with the design and some of the ideas I have to remove those glitches. See you.